Fame, fortune, red carpets. Sounds like a dream, right? But for some stars, the spotlight became too much. From blockbuster actors to childhood icons, these 20 celebrities had it all and chose to walk away. No scandals, no breakdowns, just a choice to live life on their own terms. This is where they are now and why they left it all behind. Cameron Diaz. She was one of the biggest stars of the 2000s, a box office queen with hits like The Mask, Charlie's Angels, and There's Something About Mary. But in 2014, Cameron Diaz did something few in Hollywood dare to do. She walked away. No scandal, no drama, just a choice. She wanted her life back. Since then, she's become a mom, launched a clean wine brand, and focused on peace and purpose. In her own words, stepping away was the most liberating thing she ever did. To Rick Moranis. In the 80s and 90s, Rick Moranis was everywhere, from Ghostbusters to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But behind the scenes, life threw him a devastating curveball: the loss of his wife. In 1991, Moranis quietly left Hollywood to raise his children as a single dad. No big announcement, just love in action. And while he's made rare appearances since, Rick chose fatherhood over fame, and he's never looked back. Phoebe Cates. She was the ultimate 80s crush, starring in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Gremlins. But at the peak of her career, Phoebe Cates disappeared from the spotlight. Why? To focus on her family with actor Kevin Kline. She left Hollywood, opened a boutique in New York, and embraced a quieter life. For Phoebe, trading stardom for stability wasn't a sacrifice. It was a choice she never regretted. Jack Gleason. As King Joffrey on Game of Thrones, Jack Gleason played one of the most hated characters in TV history. But when his role ended, so did his Hollywood ambitions. Jack turned his back on fame, saying he never really wanted it in the first place. He went back to school, pursued theater on his own terms, and now lives a life far removed from the red carpet. No entourage, no cameras, just peace. 5. Mara Wilson. You knew her as the sweet, smart little girl in Matilda, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Miracle on 34th Street. But fame wasn't kind to Mara Wilson. After losing her mother and battling anxiety, she stepped away from the screen. Today, she's a writer, mental health advocate, and voice actor, living life on her own terms. Mara's story isn't about quitting, it's about healing, growing, and finding joy beyond the spotlight. Bridget Fonda. Once a rising star of the 90s, Bridget Fonda lit up the screen in single white female, Jackie Brown, and it could happen to you. But in 2002, she quietly stepped out of the spotlight. No farewell tour, no headlines, just a graceful exit. She married composer Danny Elfman, became a mother, and never looked back. When asked recently if she'd return to acting, she said simply, "I don't think so." Bridget chose a life of privacy, and she's completely content. 7. Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes was once America's sweetheart, from Nickelodeon to box office comedies like She's the Man and Hairspray. But fame hit hard, and Amanda faced a very public battle with mental health. She stepped away from acting in 2010, later focusing on recovery and fashion school. In recent years, she's kept a low profile, working on herself away from the public eye. Amanda's journey is still unfolding, but it's a story of resilience, not retreat. 8. Freddie Prinze Jr. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Freddie Prinze Jr. was the teen heartthrob, starring in She's All That and I Know What You Did Last Summer. But after a few years in the spotlight, Freddie chose something different: family. He married Sarah Michelle Gellar, stepped behind the camera, and focused on fatherhood and cooking. Yes, cooking. These days, he's happy being a husband, dad, and sometimes voice actor. Fame didn't disappear. He just stopped chasing it. 9. Jeanette McCurdy grew up in front of the camera as Sam Puckett on iCarly, beloved by millions. But behind the scenes, she was struggling. Between family pressure and toxic industry experiences, acting no longer brought her joy. In 2017, she quit acting for good. Today, Jeanette is a best-selling author, director, and advocate for mental health. Her book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, made waves for its honesty and proved she found her true voice off screen. 10. Michael Schaufling will always be remembered as Jake Ryan, the dreamy high school crush from 16 Candles. But shortly after his rise to teen idol status, he vanished from Hollywood. What happened? He left it all behind to raise a family and run a handcrafted furniture business in Pennsylvania. No fame, no flash, just wood, tools, and peace. Fans still wonder what could have been, but for Michael, the life he built was the one he truly wanted. 11. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. In the 90s, he was the teen heartthrob, starring as Randy on Home Improvement and voicing young Simba in The Lion King. But Jonathan Taylor Thomas left Hollywood at his peak to go to college. He studied at Harvard, Columbia, and abroad, avoiding the limelight ever since. He's made a few low-key returns, but never chased stardom again. JTT chose education, privacy, and a quiet life far from the cameras. Once the queen of romantic comedies, Meg Ryan starred in classics like Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. But in the late 2000s, she stepped away from acting. Tired of tabloid attention and Hollywood's harsh standards for aging women, Meg took time to focus on herself and her family. Though she's made a quiet return to directing, the spotlight no longer defines her. She left to rediscover who she was beyond the fame. You might remember him as Chunk from The Goonies, but Jeff Cohen left acting shortly after that iconic role. Instead, he pursued law and became a successful entertainment attorney, even representing former child stars like himself. He rarely gives interviews and prefers life behind the scenes, proving you don't need to stay in front of the camera to stay connected to the industry. 14. Nikki Blonsky. Nikki Blonsky broke out as Tracy Turnblad in the 2007 Hairspray remake. Critics loved her, and fans embraced her energy and talent. But after that breakout, offers slowed down. Instead of chasing the next big role, Nikki leaned into real life. She's worked in retail, hair salons, and stayed grounded, even becoming a vocal advocate for body positivity and self-acceptance. Nikki's journey proves fame doesn't define worth. 15. Peter Ostrom. He played Charlie Bucket in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And then, he vanished. Peter Ostrom never acted again after that film. Instead, he became a veterinarian in rural New York and lived a life entirely outside the Hollywood bubble. He rarely talks about his childhood fame and never sought to return. For Peter, one golden ticket was enough. Taylor Momsen. She starred as Jenny Humphrey in Gossip Girl and played Cindy Lou Who in The Grinch. But Taylor Momsen shocked fans when she quit acting to pursue her true passion, rock music. She became the lead singer of The Pretty Reckless and walked away from Hollywood glam for heavy guitars and tour buses. No more red carpets, just sold-out shows and self-expression on her own terms. 17. Dylan Sprouse, briefly. Alongside his twin brother Cole, Dylan Sprouse was a Disney Channel favorite. But unlike Cole, who stayed in the spotlight, Dylan took a different route, studying video game design and later opening a meadery in Brooklyn. Though he's returned to acting in small projects, Dylan's never chased fame. For him, balance and authenticity matter more than being seen. Danny Lloyd terrified audiences as little Danny Torrance in The Shining, but that one role was almost his last. Lloyd left acting entirely after childhood and became a biology professor in Kentucky. He rarely spoke about his Hollywood past and didn't even watch The Shining until adulthood. Danny's life proves that sometimes the best exit from fame is a quiet one. 19. Lily Sobieski. She wowed audiences in Never Been Kissed and Joan of Arc. But Lily Sobieski left Hollywood in the early 2010s, saying the industry no longer felt like a healthy place. She became an artist and full-time mom, rarely seen in the public eye. Her focus shifted from scripts to self-expression, and she says she doesn't miss the fame at all. He played young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. But after intense criticism and bullying, Jake Lloyd stepped away from acting entirely. He struggled with mental health issues over the years, and his mother later confirmed he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. His story is a tragic reminder that fame at a young age can come at a high cost.